Hey everyone, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Joe Merrick of Serebii.net for part 2 of our discussion of the latest Pokémon Sun and Moon trailer. This time we'll be covering every aspect of the new Island Challenge. I guess that brings us to probably the biggest change of the entire game, which is the Island Challenge. From everything that we've seen, it looks like the Gym Challenge is no more, or does not exist within Alola. And instead we have this Island Challenge, which is basically structured as thus. You have to go around each island challenging trial captains. And the trial captains aren't actually a battle, they're having you do something completely different, just sort of minigame things. Like with Mallow, you have to collect ingredients, and Lana, you have to do something in the water. Stuff like that. And then once you defeat their trials, you take on a special Totem Pokemon. Once you beat that, you take and do that for all the trial captains and Totem Pokemon on the island, you get to face that island's Kahuna, which, boy, that's a lot more involved than gym battles.
Yeah, there is a lot to do before you beat the Kahuna. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's actually surprising. Like, I mean, yeah, you have a battle against the Totem Pokemon, you have a battle against the Kahuna, but there's still like, wow, we're actually not battling nearly as much. Now, I'm sure battles will still be as frequent as the previous games, but it's not going to be all battling all the time, which is definitely what the Gym Challenge is. So, just before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, what are your thoughts on this major change-up?
I think that it's a bit overdue. I know a lot of people were getting bored with the same old format, 8 gyms, Elite Four, Champion, done. Mm-hmm. So this could really change things up. I mean, I don't know if it should be like a standard from now. I do have a concern that the trials from the trial captains are going to be a bit too fetch questy.
Yeah, that is a potential problem.
Other than that, I think this is very interesting. It's definitely going to be something that will change things up. It will add to the length of the game. It will give you things to do, reasons to explore areas. Because otherwise people would just be going, oh, route, gym, route, gym, route, gym. Oh, I'm done. That was a short game.
Yeah. The things they've tried to add variety in past Pokemon games so much, like with the Pokemon contest and all the other little things that you can do in the past games, but I don't know if they ever really stuck with a lot of people. I know people used them and enjoyed them, but I don't think for the typical Pokemon player that people are like, oh, contest, I'll try this once. Okay, I'm pretty much done. I don't really feel the need to come back to it, but by integrating those kind of ideas where you have more variety into the challenge itself makes a lot of sense to me, because people, there is such a thing as being able to just like battle. There's not, maybe talk to new people, go to this place, check this thing out. Okay, now you can maybe do this Pokemon contest, or spruce up your hideout in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, stuff like that. But to sort of encourage breaking up the whole battles to exploration and mini games and other stuff like that is a really cool idea, in my opinion, and I think something that's going to make this generation really stand out even more so than it already has.
Yeah, I mean, it brings to mind Generation 5 again, because in that game, slight spoiler alert, as you beat the Elite Four and go onto the Champion, that's when the story kicks in, and a lot of people liked that they changed the status quo.
Yeah. No, it was
and
great.
So this seems to be pushing that even further, and I am very happy with it. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like change and are thinking, what are they doing? Why are they changing this? But it's good to change up. I mean, there's probably a reason why this is like this in this region, rather than gyms, but gotta wait and see. And more trial captains are definitely confirmed according to the Japanese website. So there's going to be a lot to do in this game.
Absolutely. And let's get into the trial captains right off the bat. We have Mallow, who is specializes in our grass, and is actually kind of key to that I guess, concept art that leaked, that supposedly leaked, and now, thanks to Mallow, seems to be pretty true. I don't know if you want to comment on that, because I know how you deal with Serebii, and I think you had the same impression of that. It's like, I did not put that on my analysis because I do not want anybody coming after that. So here's a link to it, but that kind of stuff. But do you believe that? Do you think that Mallow is the linchpin to what could be the final evolutions of Popplio, Rowlet, and Litten?
I mean, the similarities are hard to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
But you never know, it could be like early concept art.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that will be exactly what they look like in the end. I'm sure there's probably some changes here and there, maybe even typing changes, but it's hard to say. But it can't be a coincidence that is, if this is fake, that somebody happened to design Mallow,
yeah,
in a sketch form. That sort of is sort of the linchpin for that for me, where it's sort of, yeah, I'm saying sort of a lot, where it is the exact design. And before we get into the other trial captains and Mallow herself, what do you think of these? Because I know myself is like, if Litten is another damn fire fighting type, I am like, guys, I am not choosing it. I wasn't really planning to choose it to begin with, but nope.
Well, if they're true, I might go with the Rowlet one, because it's essentially the green arrow.
I guess that it is true. They got to nickname it Oliver Queen.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. No, Rowlet's design is quite awesome, and I actually kind of like Popplio's. It's very different. It has definitely a performer feel. Like, it kind of reminds me of Misty's mermaid performance during the original season of the Pokemon and whatnot. Just, ready for a stage show, which I kind of like. I don't know. Popplio, emphasizing Popplio's performer aspects is kind of cool, and I can't really pull out what its typing might be. Like, part of me wants to say it might be Water Fairy.
Could be. That would make sense. It does know Disarming Voice at a very low level when it's a Popplio.
That is true. I forgot about that. So that is a very likely possibility. Do you think Rowlet will have a secondary typing? Because I'm not quite sure what kind of secondary typing you'd have with an Archer.
It could still be flying. It is still a bird, so...
that is true. Yeah, Grass Flying, which... That's an interesting type. I've not used it much, because I think the only one I can think of that used is the Hoppip line. So...
Well, it's Tropius as well.
Oh yeah, I never really used Tropius. He's an interesting one. I'll say that. But I mean, these aren't bad designs. I don't feel these designs are that bad. Litten's final evolution is the only one I have concern with, because I don't know why they can't get away from firefighting. I know that's why I was so happy with Fennekin ending up being a fire psychic. It's like, yes, this is different. Plus, I love the psychic type. I loved Fennekin. Oh boy, but that's just my own griping. Let's get to the trial captains themselves. What's your impression of Mallow?
It's really hard to say because we don't have that much information on them, but I'm really liking the designs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all unique. That's the sort of unique styles you'd get with gym leaders, funnily enough.
Yeah, exactly. No, there is definitely interesting. I like how, like, even before I read the Pokemon website, just looking at her design, it's like, oh, she's a cook, just because he has the ladle there and everything else, which is kind of an interesting idea to have, like, a grass type cook, because spices and herbs and all that, which makes a lot of sense. And she definitely has that Pokemon design with the teeth. Like, that is my telltale sign for a Pokemon design, is that upper teeth every time. And no, she looks great. And the interesting thing to her is, like, the way they introduced these, you'd think they'd all be, or at least some of them would be, on the first island. And from everything I can tell, based on, like, looking at their locations, she seems to be based on Akala Island, which was my thought is the second island. It even says, with Lurantis being the totem Pokemon of Lush Jungle, and she's based out of Lush Jungle, the two seem kind of connected. So, yeah, it looks like they're introducing the trial captains from the second island rather than the first island, which seems like an interesting choice.
Yeah, and that's probably a reason to it, but fire, water, grass, and electric are the most, like, I don't want to say common types, but well-known types, because they're the types of the Gen 1 starters, counting Pikachu, of course.
Yeah.
So that could be why they were revealed first.
That does make sense, and to have them like that. And there's been an interesting idea, because we'll get into the other trial captains later, but 3 of them I can definitely pinpoint to Akala Island. Mallow, Lana, and Kiave. Sophocles, because he's indoors, it's really hard. I wanted to say that sort of lit up building at the base of the volcano on Akala Island might be his base of operations, but one, that seems really big, and his space did not seem that huge. 2, there was no other evidence that I could go off. It was just sort of a feeling I got, and I didn't want to go purely based on feeling for that kind of thing, as far as trying to locate him. But it does feel like all 4 of these might be based on Akala Island, and based on that, what do you think of the idea? And I've seen this brought up a few times by other people, of there being 4 trial captains on each island for a total of 16 challenges. Or trials, I guess they would be.
That's a definitely good idea. I mean, maybe on like 2 of the islands you have another one just so you can get up to the full 18.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a good idea. It could be how it is. Would be nice that there's a trial captain for each type, but considering we've gone 17 years without a dark type gym leader, I'm not holding my breath for a dark type trial captain.
I guess that is true. Yeah, but no, I'm totally with you. To be able to go through all 18 trials and have 18 captains to face off and have different trials and face a totem Pokemon of that type would be amazing. To just see them go out and really celebrate all the types. And I think that's sort of what the gyms were. They are celebrating this type of Pokemon. And God, that excites me so much. The pure concept of that excites me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm really looking forward to just trying this island challenge. It's just, I want more.
Yes, I totally agree. Oh, man. Because going a little bit further, we saw, again, Mallow associated with Lush Jungle, and Lurantis was also associated with that, and, well, she specializes in grass types. Lurantis is a grass type, so while we might not be facing off against Mallow herself in a Pokemon battle, we are facing her representative as far as speciality, and the fact that they showed Gumshoes as the other totem Pokemon on the probably first island, based on the level of Litten, I think it was. It seems that there's going to be a normal trial captain on Melamele Island.
That would make some sense. I mean, normal's a type which is just generally easy to defeat, and so to have it early on would probably be the best course of action. Yeah,
just easily ease you into that, especially because of the new SOS battles, which, again, we'll get into that eventually. Man, there's so much of it interconnects, which is what made that analysis so much fun to do. Oh, boy. But, yeah, so let's move on from Mallow. I like her design. She's very interesting. And now we have Lana, who, to me, is the female Brock, because it talks in the Pokemon website, it talks about her being the oldest sister of a bunch of younger sisters that she takes care of. So I just immediately makes me think of Brock. But yeah, she specializes in water types and carries a fishing pole, and I can't quite get a read on what her trial may be. It seems to be calming a Pokemon, but I don't know if we have to do it by fishing or if we have to battle it or exactly what's going on. But her challenge seems definitely different from Mallow's.
Yeah, it does, and that's hopefully key to what's going to keep this island challenge interesting, because, as I said, I was worried about it being fetch quests, but if each trial is very focused on a specific thing, whether it's pertaining to the character itself or to the type, that'll be great. Having to calm down a water Pokemon, that'd be great. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
Especially if I can catch it.
Exactly. That's the best way to calm down a Pokemon, just catch it. That's how it's always worked before.
Then ship it off into the box, never to be touched again.
That's what happened to my red Gyarados. Oh boy, but yeah, no, I do like Lana's design. It's kind of a different female design from what I can remember based on other female trainers. Like she has definitely a shorter look to her, which is always fun. But unfortunately, not too much else to really say.
No,
as far as I can tell. Sophocles is a weird one though. He's kind of like Clement, where he's an inventor, but he definitely seems ruder.
Yeah, he does have the angry frown to him.
Yeah, he does. He just like is. He kind of reminds me of comic book guy from Simpsons, where he's just like, "What do you want?" You know? Oh man, I'd love to see that. Comic book guy is a trial captain. Oh boy, but I do love the shout out on his T-shirt with the link cable.
Yeah, I want that
wonderful.
T-shirt.
Oh man, if they sold that, I'd get it. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And then the scarf that's shaped like Pikachu's tail. Like I like his design. It's a really fun design. But we have no idea what his actual trial is, which I guess should be interesting. He said, let's get right down to it, but who knows what it is. But any other thoughts on, like, just first impressions of Sophocles?
Just that he seems grumpy.
Now, actually, before I do move on, I do want to bring up his name. There can't be any way the Pokemon Company International purposely chose the name of the author of Oedipus Rex for this guy's name, is it? Because I looked, and a couple of people have offered up either ideas of like what how I think the Greek name Sophocles can mean in other contexts where it does have more of a machine and electric focus, but that's not what people's first impressions are going to be.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, sometimes it's really hard to say where the names come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I couldn't even tell you, like, what does Lana have to do with water? What does Mallow have to do with grass? I'm not sure, but Sophocles kind of stands out because of his apparent source material.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kyove makes sense because I found out that that's actually the name of it's an invasive plant, but it actually turns out to be really nice for charcoal and wood burning. So it's invasive and a pain, but it's also really nice. So go figure.
Yeah.
But Kyove is our fire specialist, and we already talked about his Marowak. His trial probably confuses me the most because it seems to be, okay, here's one Pokemon, here's one dance, here's another dance. Tell me the difference. And I'm like, how the heck do you make that a trial? Other than just, oh, it's that one.
Yeah, you got a 50-50 chance of, getting it right, and that's not the best.
Yeah, it's like, that's not really interesting. It's that one. And the only way I can think of to involve Pokemon is to have one dance. And boy, I have no idea how that one's going to be handled. But, I mean, I like his arena,
Yeah, I mean, being in Volcano, that's pretty cool. I like his design because he is clearly like the Hawaiian fire dancers, and so
it's cool. But there's the thing is that trial captains all come in and sort of have you get a basic idea of what they're like, but you don't have any solid details to go really beyond that much farther. So yeah. But let's go ahead and move on to the Totem Pokemon, which is the second part of our island challenge for each island. And we have Gumshoes and Lurantis. And basically, the idea is that these Pokemon are larger than the standard ones that you'd find. And they are also able to call in other Pokemon to help for a sort of 2-on-1 battle in what's being called an SOS battle, which, as I said in the analysis, seems to indicate to me that maybe once you get its health down below half is when it's able to call in its backup.
It's plausible. I mean, to me, these really just seem like boss Pokemon, and that's something we've not really had since Red, Blue, Yellow, and Green. With Marowak in Lavender Town, that was technically a boss Pokemon.
That is true.
And I guess the Kyurem in Black 2 and White 2, because you couldn't capture that. But if you can't capture these, then you've got boss Pokemon, and that's something which is really interesting. They're like leaders, so you can't capture them. They're bigger, more powerful. It's like definitely an interesting thing, and being able to call the other Pokemon onto the battle is something which I think should have been done a long time ago, ever since double battles have come, because if you've got an alpha Pokemon, so to speak, the head of a pack, it should call on help. With the SOS battles, it's definitely something which should have happened a long time ago, in my view.
I can't disagree with that. That makes a lot of sense, and to see them, I didn't even think about it being like a callback to how Marowak was a boss Pokemon, and it also makes sense to have this as far as a challenge, because otherwise you're facing a single Pokemon, and that isn't usually too much of an issue, Whitney's Miltank notwithstanding. There's always those couple that'll give you trouble, but for the most part, you have your team of 6, there's one Pokemon, you're eventually going to wear it down. And to increase the challenge of that by having another Pokemon get called in to help it out and making it a lot tougher on yours, and they also talked about how the strategies that can be involved with these SOS battles. I'm very intrigued to see exactly how they play out and just how much more of a challenge they'll be compared to the typical Pokemon difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, having a second Pokemon, having 2 against 1, that's always a bit of a pain, because that means you're going to get hit twice, and if one of them hits really hard, that could wear your team down if you're not at the right level. But the thing that concerns me a little is they say that it's not just exclusive. SOS battles, they're not just exclusive to Totem battles. And so if, say, for example, you're trying to capture a shiny Salandit, and suddenly it starts calling other Salandits, like, oh, will this ever end? I want to capture this shiny.
Yeah, that would be a bit of an issue. Like, all of a sudden the SOS battle becomes a horde battle. That'd be interesting. I don't think it'll quite get to that point. I have a feeling just once you knock out the extra one, then you can get back to the original. I put it forth the idea that, like, based on that, just on that description, how other Pokemon can call them in, and it felt very weird to me how Vikavolt and Charjabug was said to have such a close relationship, how Vikavolt would carry Charjabug. So I'm like, okay, that's an interesting detail, but how do you really work that into gameplay? And all of a sudden, this is how. Calls it in and can use that ability, and all of a sudden Vikavolt becomes a lot more challenging.
It's definitely an interesting idea. I mean, if Vikavolt is in the wild, I would not be surprised one bit that keeps happening.
I'm intrigued, and I like this step, and I like how, you have to, it sort of changes things up. It's not Trial Captain Totem Pokemon Kahuna repeat ad nauseum, potentially 18 times, or at least 16 times. It's Trial Captain Totem Pokemon Explore, Trial Captain Totem Pokemon, fully explore the island, and then we return to the Kahuna, in this case, Hala, and challenge him for, I guess, dominance of the island.
Well, not quite. But
not quite.
Yeah, let's go with that.
This is my
island. As soon as I beat Hala, I know that Mallow Island is mine.
Yes, this is my. I am Kahuna now. Oh boy, but yeah, now we actually know what that means, because they said he's Kahuna before, which I thought it might just be for that town, but no, it's the entire island, which that's an interesting role, especially since he's the one that gives you your first Pokemon. It's not just down to Kukui. And I don't know, I like this idea, and hopefully he's a bit of a challenge. I mean, we don't see any of his Pokemon or exactly what level it all is, but the mere fact that he's wearing the Z-Ring means this might be a bit more challenging than the typical gym battle.
Yeah, that's definitely likely. I mean, it could be that's the point when Z-Rings and Z-Power is introduced to you. And it's like, you don't know what's happening. Z-Rings and Z-Power has never been in the game, so unless you've been following it, you don't know what's happening. You're battling against him, and then, what was that? Oh my god.
I just got destroyed, but it was awesome.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'd be happy if that's the way they do it.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. You just sort of like hear maybe hints about it or something like that, or before the battle you see him clipping on the Z-Rings, like time to truly challenge you, or something to that effect. It'd be really cool. I'm very curious how the battle against Hala will go. The other thing I'm curious about is that we saw that screenshot of Tapu Koko appearing in front of Hala. And I'm not sure if that was the same area as before. It was a different angle and whatnot, so I'm not quite sure exactly how that works or when that takes place. But do you think he'll use Tapu Koko in battle?
It would be nice, but if it's early on, that could be a bit broken.
Yeah, it is true. Because we don't know the levels, we don't know if they'll scale the levels or anything like that. And it'd also be weird, like, if he actually tosses out a Pokeball that has Tapu Koko and is like, okay, how are we supposed to catch another one if he owns supposedly the only one for this island?
I mean, this is just speculation, of course, but what could happen is you get gifted it as the new Kahuna.
That could
But
be.
that's, of course, speculation. Don't take that as fact, people.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work, especially since we have to assume with Hal being your rival that he also is able to beat Hala at some point.
Yeah.
So you can't give multiple Tapu Kokos to others. So maybe the idea is either you challenge it later and you sort of hear about Tapu Koko, or maybe see it that one time since you are sort of recognized by it, or it'll come down itself and do its own challenge against you.
Or you come back to the island at a later point in the game.
And treat it like any other legendary, which would make sense.
Yeah.
Not sure how the people of Alola would feel about us catching all their deity Pokemon, though. It's like, awesome, I caught him in the box.
Yeah.
The fate of all legendaries, at least when it comes to me. Oh,
dear.
boy. Yeah. And that covers it for part 2 of our Sun and Moon discussion. Tomorrow will be the final part where we'll cover the mystery of Lily, Z-moves, and if there will be an evil team. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. Also, be sure to check out more from Joe at Serebii.net. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Pokemon and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.